That's a good ball for Peter Weir. Now Aberdeen with McGee making the break and Hewitt waiting in the middle. Yes!
Countdown to Kickoff is brought to you and supported by Saltire Energy, the global market leader in specialist drilling equipment rental. And also by Craig International, a truly global company with 10 offices strategically placed around the world. The future of global procurement is right here. And also by Steadfast Scotland, manufacturers of high-integrity stud bolts and special fasteners, globally recognised as your market leader and solution provider for bespoke quality bolting and safety critical components. Guys, thank you for your continued support. Tomorrow at 5:30, we're in Tannadice and we're looking to get our first win in 7 games. It's a very tricky game against Jim Goodwin's Dundee United. A win for them, quite unbelievably, will put them just 3 points behind us. But we're still in a very comfortable position in 3rd place, but it remains absolutely vital that we stay in touch with Rangers and we do get back to winning ways, and that we have to stop the rot. Hi everybody, a very warm welcome to Ali Beg ABTV this Saturday evening ahead of our game against Dundee United tomorrow at Tannadice. All of a sudden, out of nothing, these games have become crucial. Crucial to stop the current rot that we're in. A little bit later, I have a really good chat with Scottish football correspondent for the Times, Michael Grant, who's also a huge Aberdeen fan and has written a couple of fantastic football books about the club, including Fergie Rises. I really hope you enjoy the chat. It was hugely interesting for me to hear what Michael had to say about our current predicament. So I'll bring that to you a little bit later. As always, get in touch, leave your comments for me to read out tonight. Tell me how you're feeling now. You know, the Kilmarnock game is still obviously eating away at us. I can see that by your responses on social media over the past 24 hours or so. Some of you are really, really unhappy with the application of the players at the moment and you're looking for changes. I will come to that in just a moment because I'm going to predict the team news for tomorrow and I personally am looking for wholesale changes. So, usual drill, predict the team lineups. We've got a couple of quotes from Yemi Tulane, who did not give a press conference today for some reason. I know it's a Saturday, I get that, but no press conference, which is actually quite unusual. So I wonder if there's anything going on with that or whether it's just they've decided just not to do it quite simply because the games are coming so thick and fast. So, first of all, before we get Michael on, because I want to get Michael on, then I want you to have a wee listen to what Michael has to say, and then I'm wondering if that will sort of help prompt your thoughts a little bit later. So, team news, predicted team news. I'll be honest with you, I've absolutely wrung the changes from the Kilmarnock game because for me, too many players did not apply themselves in that game at all and they need to be benched. Sticking with Dimitar in goal. Then I've gone with Nicky Devlin at right back, Angus MacDonald, I'm dropping Ruby for Gavin and I'm keeping Jack in at left back. I'm ringing the changes in front in terms of Ante and Dante coming in place of Shinza and Nielsen. Toppy to keep his place on the right. Leighton Clarkson to come in and Duke to come in. Jamie McGrath has to go to the bench. He has to. He's not performed at all for a number of weeks. Esther Sokla to come in to see what he can do and maybe give us something a little bit more up front than what Peter Ambrose did the other day. Here's your match stats. So Aberdeen are now winless in 7 games. Meanwhile, Dundee United have only lost once in their last 5 games. Sunday will be the 100th match between the sides at Tannadice in the league and the 199th overall league meeting between the two sides. The Dons are undefeated in 3 games against Dundee United, winning all 3 of them. Your referee tomorrow is John Beaton and the man on VAR is Greg Aiken. So that's your match stats. So what we'll do now is let's get Michael Grant on, Scottish football correspondent for the Times, huge Aberdeen fan. We have a really good chat here. It's about 10 minutes. So take it all in, and then I'll get you guys on the other side of the chat. So please enjoy the chat with Michael Grant. Michael, it's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for jumping on, because I know this time of year is particularly busy for you, so I really appreciate it. I'm going to jump straight in. Can you make head or tails on what's happening with Aberdeen currently?
Incredible season, Ali, hasn't it been? You know, the opening, whatever it was, 13 wins, 16 unbeaten, that was astonishing. And now it's almost getting to the point where the winless run is equally astonishing, you know. I don't know how you make sense of a team that can deliver results like it did early in the season, and a set of players who can beat Rangers and go 2 each with Celtic, largely the same set of players, obviously, as we've got at the moment, and they are playing without any confidence. Now, playing without confidence is understandable, but to play without enough effort is unforgivable, really, I think. And I think you saw the manager's anger in his reaction after the Kilmarnock game. I thought one of the great strengths of the side in the early 4 months was that intensity and effort. You know, and it sounds such a simple thing, but not every club delivers that. Not every team delivers that week in, week out. And I thought Aberdeen were doing that, and it was all part of, that was underpinning everything. So, you know, if the effort starts to slip away, and the confidence has clearly slipped away, that's a toxic combination. And I can only hope that that Tulleen does get a reaction out of them after the game at Rugby Park, because I mean he talked about rock bottom. He talked about hoping that that's the worst performance that we see all season. Well, you know, it is now up to him and his backroom team to get a reaction out of this group of players, because as we know, Dundee United are within touching distance, unthinkably. Yeah. If you think back to, I mean, listen, we were never going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Celtic over the course of a season. It just wasn't going to happen, I'm afraid. The resources aren't there. You can wish it all you like, but the resources aren't there with Celtic at the moment. But the collapse has been pretty dramatic, and it's a shame because they could have applied real pressure on Rangers.
Sorry, Michael, is there also a bemusement amongst your peers about what's happened to Aberdeen?
I don't know if it's bemusement as much as enjoyment, or at least certainly it's given them plenty of ammunition to tease me, you know, and they're not slow to do it, and that's fair game, you know. I mean, I enjoyed it greatly earlier in the season. Is it bemusement? Yeah, I mean, I think everybody's puzzled about why the results have suddenly turned so bad. You know, I mean, you know, we always knew that there was going to be a period when the form would kind of stabilise. It was never going to be continually as remarkable as it had been earlier in the season. But I mean, we now, you know, we mentioned it before we started recording, Ali. But you talked about Barry Robson and Stephen Glass and Goodwin. You know, it's that kind of run of games again, isn't it? That kind of run of results. And we thought, tentatively, we hoped that we were beyond that, and that we had a set of players now who were, frankly, better than that, and a manager who would have the answers. We're now hopefully going to see another side of Tulleen, you know, when he has to deliver and turn around the morale on a side which is looking in a bit of a tailspin, I'm afraid, at the moment.
Have we reached panic station mode yet, or do we need to just take stock and continue to trust in the process?
I think we do need to trust in the process and just step back and look at the league table.
Yeah.
Aberdeen are third. They're going to be third at the end of the year. Now, I think if you'd said that to any of us in the summer, that Aberdeen will be third at the end of the season, you know, close to Rangers, I think you'd take that in a heartbeat. You know, it's just weird the way that they've got there. You know, they haven't got there obviously by a kind of flat, consistent level of form. It's been so spectacular, and now it's been so wretched. But I think we trust the process. I think the club has got money to spend in January. I think we now need to see There's been more turbulence in the recruitment department, obviously. Another new face coming in. I can't say I particularly like that level of turnover that we seem to have in that department. Okay, sometimes we're losing them to clubs that respect our heads of recruitment so much that they try and take them, and that's okay. But it's a bit unfortunate that you don't get consistency of recruitment. Yeah. But I think there is obviously areas, and maybe we'll come to it later, but there are all obvious areas of weakness in the squad. But I think we trust the process, Ali. I think Tullane's body of work so far entitles him to that. And listen, I mean, if we're panicking about being third in the table, I think we need to screw the nut a little bit,
Yeah, completely. So let's talk about where we need strengthening. First of all, do you have any transfer gossip for us? And I think it's quite glaringly obvious where we need cover.
Yeah. Ali, you know me well enough to know that I don't come on with information and gossip like that. I can give you
my arm.
I can give you analysis. I can't give you names. No, I mean, I think we all are aware that the name that has been doing the rounds is Christos Tobers, the Latvian international captain. I haven't spoken to anybody at the clubs, so I'm not sure the credibility of that or how likely that is to materialise. But certainly the profile makes sense, doesn't it? He's 24. He's an international player. I know that we tend to shop in the Balkans. It's not Balkans, it's the Baltics. But it's kind of loosely in the same kind of profile. His age is good. And also, crucially, he's a centre-half stroke deep central midfielder. Both of those would be useful additions, so that makes sense. In terms of where I think that we need addressing, I mean, I think both fullback positions need to be looked at. I think you need to have cover on the right-hand side to give Devlin a rest and give him competition. Jack McKenzie, it seems to be unresolved about where his future is going to lie. He hasn't come out to a new contract yet. So it looks to me like the team's going to need a new left-back soon enough. So, that's an issue. I think centre-half is an issue, whether it's one or two, but the team's losing too many soft goals. Yeah. How many times have we seen balls through the middle that are causing real trouble for our centre-halves? So that's an issue for me. I still think there's enough central midfielders that we should be able to rotate there and get a combination that doesn't need to play every week. But, I mean, I'm not particularly down on Shinnie and Nielsen because I think they're erratic at the moment, aren't they? They're inconsistent. So I don't buy into the fact that both of them are done, and I know their age obviously kind of means that is held against them when they play poorly. But you've got the two of them. You've got Polvara, who I thought was good when he came on against Hibs, and you've got Palaversa. Surely there's four there that you can rotate them. Yeah. There's a balance of youth and energy and experience and streetwise kind of know-how and all that. So I'm not convinced that I would be looking at that, but I think striker, Ali, is an issue that really needs to be looked at as well. I don't know what's happening with Nisbet. Millwall have obviously changed manager. I don't know whether that means that he's had a indication that he could come back if he wants to, if the club wants to put him back. Sockler seems to kind of drift in and out, doesn't he? He just doesn't really seem to kind of just impose himself and really hold down the number 9 sharp. Peter Ambrose, I'm afraid I don't see it. I just don't see it. I don't see what he's bringing to the side. He's a big physical lad, but I don't see the ability there, and there aren't goals there. And to be honest, the three of them aren't scoring enough goals. Yeah. Ali. So I think centre forward, and that's not an easy position to shop for, especially in a January window. But if you're talking about full back, centre half, and a striker, now I don't know if either of us are expecting all these issues to be resolved in January, but I'd like us to be looking.
Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on as always, and a very happy new year to you. And we'll see each other again in the new year.
And you, Ali, and hopefully in happier circumstances or happier form at least.
Absolutely, 100%. Great to see you. Thank you, mate.
Thanks. Cheers, Alan.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Michael. So the manager hasn't given a press conference, but he did give his thoughts after the Kilmarnock game. in terms of our game against Dundee United, and this is what he said. It can't happen again, as in terms of the performance against Kilmarnock. We have to focus on the next game and do much better. Football is not in the past, it's not the future, it's right now. And right now, we did not perform well, and we need to start to find a way to stop this, and it starts tomorrow, he said. Just while I'm at it, can I make a quick correction? I'm really sorry, guys. I gave you the wrong kick-off time tomorrow. It is, of course, at 17:15. Just to confirm, 17:15 is kick-off time tomorrow. Right, let's get you on. Okay, so Can't Be Bothered first came on. How are we doing? He says, hi Ali and fellow dandies. It's a must-win tomorrow. Got to go with McDonald and Malloy at centre-back, Pelaversa and Polvara in the middle. Graham Gibbs says, surely we need some energy and drive in midfield. We also need to see drive and application. Please, he says. Cammy Fraser says, huge game this. We can't let this lacklustre stuff continue. Billy Johnson says, hello Red Army. Ruby needs benched. It's no coincidence that when he was injured last season, we went on an incredible run, which coincided with better defensive performances. McDonald and Malloy for me. He came back to say Palaversa and Palvara on from the start too. McGrath needs bench too, as he's been off it for some time. Cammy came back to say that he can't see JT dropping both Shinnie and Nielsen. Colin Gale says, I've got my doubts Shinnie and Nielsen will be benched, but there will be rumblings if they both start. Graham Gibbs said McGrath needs dropping, been too peripheral for weeks now. Kirstein's on. Hi Kirstein, how are you? She says, good evening Ali and fellow dandies. I would bin Ruby and go with McDonald and Malloy in defence. Not sure he will drop both Nielsen and Shinnie, so I would start with Shinnie and Palaversa. She'd also say I'd also ditch McGrath and start with Clarkson, Sockler up front with Duke out wide. Paul Hannon is here. Hi, Paul. How are you, mate? He says, evening, dandies. So tomorrow, unless things change, we will lose again. But I will still go along and cheer the team on. It's another sellout, another away sellout. Which, I just continue to bang the drum. I think it's a phenomenal effort, particularly this time of year. And also particularly with how bad we're playing at the moment. And it's absolutely vital that, again, we get absolutely right behind the boys and we do everything that we can to help them. But as much as we can help them, it's about time now that these lads took a look at themselves and started applying that effort on the pitch to mirror the effort that's been put in by the fans off the pitch. David Horn says, hi Ali and fellow dandies, we just need a win, any win. Simon Roy is on saying hi. Gary Milne says, need to introduce the young blood both in midfield and up front. Come on boys, a bit of fight and effort, please. Paul Hannon said, one thing I don't get is that we still have the same team that played amazing getting those wins up until the semi-final. So even though the opposition teams know how we play, we should still be able to play. Sheep on Fire's here saying, hoping Ambrose doesn't start tomorrow. Matthew Cool said, good evening Ali, a win is a must, stand free. Doug Smith said, I'm feeling very apprehensive. It's obvious to everyone, the players who need the bullet. Come on, Yimmy, get it sorted. Come on, you Reds. Ewan Sutherland says, we must start on the front foot. Please do not leave firepower on the bench for deployment in the second half, i.e. Morris. An early goal or two will change the landscape. Gavin Wilson is here wishing everyone a good evening. Paul Donaldson is also feeling nervous about tomorrow. A few weeks ago, I'd have said that we should be winning this game, but now I think the main thing is avoiding defeat. Cammy, I take your point, but honestly, I'm not having that, mate. There's absolutely no way that's happening. Not a chance. Kenneth Merchant said, comfortable in third. I don't think so, Ali. United win, only 3 points behind. Sorry, Kenneth, you're right what you say. Let me choose my words slightly carefully. What I meant to say was, get the win tomorrow, we have to remain comfortable in third place. We cannot allow Dundee United to get 3 points behind us tomorrow, because if they start doing that, we're going to start looking over our shoulders. And we've still got more difficult games to come, particularly in January. So it's absolutely vital that we get the win to just give us that comfort zone. That's what I meant. So sorry for any confusion, Kenneth. Stuart Hepburn says, let's do the talking on the pitch. West Coast Dawn said, there's no way Ambrose should be ahead of Duke, Nisbet, or even Sokler. Nielsen needs to be dropped. James Brown says, Dundee United will absolutely fancy their chances. Why wouldn't they? The Dons have got to get stuck in from the first minute to the last. Sugarland says, if we avoid defeat tomorrow, I'll be hugely surprised. Barry Cole's here. Hi, Barry. He says he's currently in the music hall away to watch Skerry Vore, taking it easy due to going down to Dundee tomorrow. Safe travels, Barry. Gavin Wilson said the players have to have a word with themselves. They happily accepted the contracts and money. No excuses. Neil Strachan is on. Neil, it's your birthday. Very many happy returns. I hope you've had an absolutely brilliant day. He says, I'm very confident that Aberdeen will win. I think we're going to win 3-1. Keskinen will get a hat-trick. There we go. Dave Sharp is suggesting that there's too many fragile egos in the team. David Gold is here wishing everyone a good evening, as is Xander Moore. He says, hope we can get a good win tomorrow against Good Winds United. Come on, you Reds. Stand free wherever you may be. West Coast Dawn said, we need energy and pace. Youth brings that, not a 33-year-old playing a pressing game. Kevin Main says, Morris, Duke, Nisbet, Polvara and Palaversa hopefully start tomorrow. McGrath looks disinterested in the last few games. It's a big game tomorrow in the grand scheme of things. Stand free to all, he says. John Stewart says we need Pape back as soon as possible. Can't be bothered said the loss of Pape has been massive, and I never thought I'd say that. West Coast Dawn is saying, what's happened to Shinza? Was excellent at the start of the season, driving forward and looking like a new player. Has JT changed his role? Gavin Wilson says, bring in Alfie Bavidge, Alfie Stewart, Fletcher Boyd. Simon Roy's also of the same thinking. We need to play more youth and get them experience from the older heads. John Stewart says the same. Bring the young lads in. Bruce Strother says it's going to be very interesting to see the starting 11 tomorrow. If the usual faces start, then it clearly shows that Tallinn does not rate a lot of the squad. It's clear Ruby, Shinza and Nielsen are struggling. Dave Sharp says, I trust Tallinn more than most of the players. West Coast Dawn is saying, why doesn't Palaversa start? Bruce Strother says, we need a new centre-back, left-back, number 9 definitely needed. Younger, more mobile central midfielders as well. Kenneth Merchant says we need 2 in midfield, a right-back. The lad at Falkirk looks promising. Centre-half and a centre-forward. It's so obvious where we need to strengthen, isn't it? So obvious. Graham Gibbs says, the last Dundee United game, they played for a 0-0. It might work in our favour that they are being ranked as favourites. Our forte is counter-attacking. Well, we didn't see any of that on Boxing Day, did we? And that absolutely has to change. We need to press them as well. We didn't press, we didn't counter-attack, we did nothing. No long balls either. Dear God, if we punt the ball up the park at Tannadice, I'll be screaming. David Gold says, this squad isn't yet strong enough to play the kind of football Tallinn wants. We need better players to enable a successful gegenpressing game. Agree with a lot of Michael's comments on signings needed. Jason Campbell says, 2 up front gives ourselves a chance. John Grant is on. Hi, John. How are you? We need to step up tomorrow. Michael is correct in saying we are in a great position just now, so we have to stop the slide. West Coast Dawn said, we'd be winning games if we had Bojan. Let's not forget we sold a class player who's not been replaced yet. John Stewart says that Shinnie and Nielsen must be benched. Bruce Struthers also agrees with Michael's comments on playing Polvara and Palaversa more. Both good players, he says. Sugarland says, United should have had us last time around and should Dundee St Johnstone in the game too, as should Ross County. Our great run was fluky, and this is the reality as we meet these teams for the second time. David Gold thinks, he's basically saying, I have a feeling Palaversa isn't signing the extension. 1 year contract with the option of another 2. Something is not right. You see, that was interesting because a few of you actually commented about that on my socials, that you think one of the reasons why Ante's not playing is because he's not committed himself to this contract extension or to take up the option of a second year. Hence why Yimmy's basically keeping him on the bench. But until he plays regularly, you know, for me, I understand from a player's point of view, why would you sign a second year option if you're not going to be playing on a regular basis or if you're not going to be starting on a regular basis? So I kind of get that. It's a double-edged sword for us, I think. Dave B says, I think what's happened is that we lose too many soft goals through the middle and at corners. Other teams have sussed this, and when they press, they play it long down the middle and we cough up easy goals. David Cobb says Palaversa, Polvara and Shaden Morris should start tomorrow. Paul Donaldson is suggesting that Peter Ambrose might benefit from going out on loan for the rest of the season, as does Scottish Man Cave. He says the same. West Coast Dawn said, we've got to show fight and make sure that the tactics work. Simon Roy says, maybe we should change things up and play a 4-4-2. Go with 2 up top, Nisbet and Sokla together. VK says, Fletcher Boyd was first class when he played and scored for the first team. He's never been given an opportunity with Tulane. Kilted Warrior is on, wishing everyone a good evening. Don't have to be sorry, fella. Glad you're here. Phil McInish also is hoping that Pappy's back soon. He will be. There was talk of him sort of being back mid-January. David Gold says, you know, Devlin is clearly struggling with an injury. Despite that, he always gives 100%. Graham Caldwell says, Ali, St Mirren fan here. Tulane has been a breath of fresh air for the league. It would be good for Aberdeen to finish second. Rangers are still shocking, and I hope you can get back on track. Graham, thank you so much for coming on, mate. Really appreciate it. Thank you for being respectful as well. Top man. Scottish Man Cave says, people calling for Yimmy to go is a nonsense. It was way overachieving with a team that was in a relegation battle last season. He needs time. John Stewart suggesting that we also go with 2 up top. West Coast says, JT is building a team and a culture. It takes time, but we can't be getting pumped from Killie. Cammy, in response to your question, honestly, I've seen a number of posts from fans asking for the manager's head. It's absolutely, it beggars belief. West Coast Dawn is suggesting that Nielsen needs a rest for a month, replaced by Palaversa or Paul Vara. Can't be bothered said, where's the Baron money? This is getting beyond a joke, isn't it? It's just astonishing. Cairnwell Metal Detective says, if the team can't put in a performance to put the Killie result to bed, then we don't have the players with the right mindset. Take your point, Cammy. I take your point. Alan George says, we should be looking at it as a win. We go 9 points clear of United and keep the pressure on Rangers. Kenneth Merchant, that's harsh. West Coast Dawn says, definitely need better players who can handle not having the ball and calm when we do. Can't be bothered said, there's a few rumours of Scandinavian signings. Would these players be fit enough to play half a season after completing a full season already? It's a good point. Mark Leslie says, see a lot of people calling to play the youth, but putting young players into a team like this right now could have a really negative effect on their long-term development too. So in regard to the comments about Palaversa, look, don't shoot the messenger. It's just what you hear, it's what you read. I'm just throwing it out there. I also agree, Kenneth, that you absolutely have to play the best team that's available for you to pick. And for me, Palaversa should be playing every week. Graham Gibbs says, and it counters the argument. If Tallina's not picking Palaversa because he won't sign, why is he picking McGrath and McKenzie? There's no logic to that argument, which I completely agree. As I said, don't shoot the messenger. I'm not making the argument. I'm just putting it out there. Skuska says, defence needs gutted. 3 goals against Killie from the middle, inside the 6-yard box. Angus is finished. Neil Mazon. Hi, Neil. How are you? I know, Kenneth. I know you're only kidding on. Colin Gale says, we've got to remember that Ambrose is young. He needs time. The fans had binned Pape a few months ago. A lot of you are now responding to those that are calling for Yumi's head, saying it's an absolute nonsense. Kenneth just said we need to support him 100%. Absolutely. Dave B said the goals against Killie were mainly because our midfield were mainly down to them not getting pressure on the ball. Exactly. If you looked at the review show that we did last night with Andrew Budge, you would have seen where Andrew pointed, where basically we were giving them far too much time to cross the balls. There was not enough pressure, allowing players to ghost into 18-yard boxes, all that kind of stuff. It just simply wasn't good enough, and it has to change tomorrow. Otherwise, we're going to get punished again. Please don't forget, guys, because we're coming towards the end of the show. I really hope you've enjoyed what you've watched tonight, so don't forget to press like. Thank you for all your comments, as always. And don't forget to subscribe. I'd be absolutely thrilled if you would please consider subscribing to the channel, giving us a wee follow and supporting us as we continue to get bigger and hopefully better. Right, guys, we are done. So, as we always do at this juncture, we'd like to wish the boys the very best of luck tomorrow. This is not rocket science, is it? We all know what needs to be done. There has to be an element of pride. The effort has to be doubled, if not tripled. The togetherness needs to come back. I think that's missing, and it's been missing in recent weeks. And we need to get back to finding the formula to how we won games at the beginning of the season. And if we can rediscover that type of form and find that formula again, I think we're going to be okay. But we have to stop the rot, because fans are getting nervous, we're getting edgy, we're getting worried, and everybody's ready to absolutely jump on us. As you can see, everybody's ready to jump on us. And I don't want that to happen. I want to prove everybody wrong. More than anything, I want to prove the West Coast media wrong. So, good luck, lads. If you've got anything about you, you're going to prove us all wrong. Do it tomorrow. Guys, we'll see you again on Monday for the review show. Again, with Andrew, where we'll tactically break down the game. Thank you so much for being on. Take good care of yourselves. If you're going to United tomorrow, please travel safely. I'll see you again on Monday. Take care. Bye-bye. Stand free.